Get them started here.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
Really hit me for the first time about Nasaroma being gone because we had a planning meeting for the festival, and his name was on there to do rap from last year's festival. I said, oh.
I heard that. Yeah. Pretty tough, man.
Oh man, life's a bitch and then you die.
How about that? But you know what? I changed that saying up. I say, life's a bitch, but I win.
So what?
I win.
I like that. That's the proper attitude, right? Not you die,
That's
you're
right.
gonna win.
I'll win.
Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression of people's minds are deep and difficult to remove.
Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs. Yes, indeed. Ready to get them started, ready to get them going. Your eye is going to be open by the time I leave here today. Every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. And that's what we do here. Because you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I'm on a mission to do that for myself as well as others. One tree can start a forest. One smile can begin a friendship. One hand can lift a soul. One word can frame the goal. One candle can wipe out darkness. And one laugh can conquer gloom. One hope can raise your spirits. One touch can show you care. One life can make a difference. Be that one today. All right. Let me get my disclaimer out the way, and we're going to go on with the show. All right, WHGE. Oh, where is it?
The views and opinions expressed on Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors, and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual.
WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye. Patrice Gibbs right here. You know what? Let's get them started. All right. Sister Nzinga, I see you. Welcome to the show. Yes, indeed. You know, no other country in the developed world has for-profit health insurance. And you know what? That's why they have lower health care costs than America does. Their people aren't burdened with the cost of supporting billionaire health insurance executives and the millionaires who work for them. You know, don't know if many of you know this, but you know, when doctors prescribe pills and medicine and what have you, they'll give you some pills. Oh man, they will give you some pills. When they prescribe medicines and what have you, guess what? They get a commission. They get rewarded. You know, pharmaceutical salesmen, I had a cousin that worked in the pharmacy in Christianity. And the pharmaceutical salesman would come in, they'd take them out to lunch, you know, bring them gifts, all kind of stuff. They'll push their medicine. You know what the pharmaceutical companies are? Drug dealers. Don't get it mixed. That's exactly what they are. All right. I saw a video of this young lady, and she was in Japan. You might have heard me mention this before. And one of the things she noticed was the technological advancement and how well people were living. And they were living very well. And she made a comment that stuck with me. She said, Japan is not living in 2050. America has not left the last century. And the reason for that is America demonizes anyone that's not white, male, or rich. China unveiled a super bullet train, which is one of the fastest vehicles on land. It is also called floating train as it uses magnets instead of wheels. It is designed to speed up to 620 kilometers an hour. Imagine that. No Christianity, no God, no Islam, no Allah, no Judaism, no Jehovah. Now China is first in the world terms of technological innovation and modernization. And America is on a backwards, degenerating, sinking ship led by race and profit-driven, ostentatious cripples, complaining serially, but not accepting this dead-end fate. And that's what these fools are doing. You know, we as black people have identity crisis. Some of our greatest scholars have spoken to this, from Amos Wilson back to Du Bois. We don't know what to call ourselves. It's from Sonia Sanchez. Negro is an interesting word. This country couldn't call us Africans because if it had, we would have understood some things about ourselves. We would not have been this Negro America, constantly enslaved even after slavery. It would have given us a sense of continuity. So they had to say color and Negro and N-word to keep us in our place. To put on our minds that we're from here, from this country. You know, it's something, it's interesting how you look at some of the names of some of our early institutions before, during, and after slavery. Our people were not afraid to say African. Some of those institutions still carry that name. The church I grew up in, the church that my mother's family attended, Mother African Union Church. And there are other institutions that still carry that name because they were closer to Africa and they weren't afraid to say they are African. Gala Jack. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Brother Vaughn, I see you. Jafar, welcome to the show. All right, let's get them going. WHGE 95.3 FM. Yes, D. Good morning, Vaughn. one of my favorite authors is actually Mark Twain. My mother gave me Huck Finn when I was like 12 years old. She gave me the unedited version. And she read it at the same time that I read it. She had read it before, but she read it at the same time. Because she knew I was going to have questions. And I did. His judicious use of the N-word, one of the characters was called N-word Jim. Okay. I noticed, it was by the early 80s, how the NAACP had pushed to have Huckleberry Finn removed from bookshelves in schools and libraries. They didn't read the book. They didn't understand where he was coming from. All they knew is that the N-word was in there. I'll give you a little story here about Twain. Okay. In 1903, on his last visit to his in-laws at Quarry Farm in Elmira, New York, Mark Twain posed for a photograph with his friend John T. Lewis, who was born a free man in Maryland, a black man, who had migrated to upstate New York. They met in 1877 after Lewis saved the lives of Twain's sister-in-law and her daughter by courageously stopping their runaway carriage at no small risk to his own safety. Lewis was an elder in the Church of the Brethren, the Dunkers, and he and Twain often talked about religion and other such matters. Lewis loved to read, and Twain would send him every one of his books when they came out, with a loving inscription in each one. After Lewis retired from farming, Twain and his in-laws arranged to have him receive a pension. When Twain returned to writing Huckleberry Finn in 1879 while at Elmira, Lewis was one of the real-life people upon whom he based the character of Jim. In the book, it was, I'm saying on out, taking literary license here, the name of the character was Nigger Jim. And it's even possible that his acquaintance with Lewis caused Twain to continue working on the novel after having earlier set it aside. Twain's friendship with Lewis was hardly atypical. Of all the white authors in this period, he was the one most fully immersed in and appreciative of African American culture, and the one most at home in the company of African Americans. Near the end of his life, he recalled a time in New York City when he was walking with another black friend, George Griffin, and people stared at them. A white man and a Negro walking together was a new spectacle to them. The glances embarrassed George, but not me, for the companionship was proper. In some ways, he was my equal. In others, he was my superior. Published in 1884-85, Huckleberry Finn is about a racist boy's realization of the full humanity of a fugitive slave. 10 years later, in Pudd'nhead Wilson, Twain would deconstruct the very ideal of race itself as nothing more than a fiction of law and custom, without any basis in biology. As Toni Morrison stated, Mark Twain talked about racial ideology in the most powerful, eloquent, and instructive way she had ever read. Mark Twain and John T. Lewis were both buried in their families, with their families in Woodlawn Cemetery in Elmira. Yeah. Yes, indeed, good stuff. Like I said, Jafar. Recently, one of my Facebook friends posted this article, Facebook post about an experiment called Universe 25. And this experiment is about the effect environment has. And what happens from that. Basically, what it really was about. Okay, the idea of Universe 25 came from American scientist John Calhoun, who created an ideal world in which hundreds of mice would live and reproduce. More specifically, Calhoun built the so-called paradise of mice, a specially designed place where rodents had abundance of food and water, as well as a large living space. Okay. And basically what he did was he set these mice up with abundance, like I said. And eventually what happened with these mice was that their society imploded. Bullies developed. Homosexuality became a thing. The females became more aggressive. Their society imploded. And what his findings were, what his understanding was that the abundance led to their implosion. The brother that posted that, a brother named William Jasper, had this to say. We recognize in the Skinner experiment is that the rat not only lives under a particular set of conditions and special environment, the conditions in the environment also live in the rat. The rat is an expression of the environment. In fact, the environment and the conditions speak through the rat and literally use the rat's body to express themselves. This is why upon hearing people talking and seeing the way they dress and walk, we often can tell where they are from. We not only live in a neighborhood, the neighborhood lives in us. It expresses itself through us. We are its vehicle. It comes through us. So when another people shape our neighborhood, shape our schools, shape the experience we have, they in the process create us as human beings. We have to recognize that. That is why the black student has to look at the rat, not as a rat, but as a prototype of himself. If he does not see that, I don't care how many A's he makes in psychology, he has been miseducated. Very interesting comment that I disagree with. Yes, we are products of our environment. But we can overcome those environments. We're not rodents. And the ideal that the scientist came up with through his experiment, that abundance leads to implosion, is absolutely disproved by history, specifically by our history. Because the African comes from an environment of abundance before the coming of the European. Okay? Because we didn't worry about our next meal, a roof over our head, our health care. That left us free to create. Because we came from an environment of abundance, we were able to advance medicine. We were able to advance technology. We were able to advance architecture. We were able to build on our understanding of managing a state. This is why Egypt went 3,000 years without a major war. Which is why you see the monuments. We're able to advance mathematics and philosophy to such a level that we became the university of the ancient world, the entire Kemetic society. Where on the other hand, the European came from a society, an environment of lack, which influences their mindset now. Coming from an environment of lack and competition just to survive. You look at the oppression that they brought when they left Europe. They practiced that for centuries on their own. Especially their women, whom they feared. The African had no fear of his woman, of the women in our society. We were so comfortable that we were able to see her go wherever her intelligence, skills, and ambition took her. The first women to lead an army were in Africa. The first women to lead a society were in Africa. Because we had no fear of competition. We came from an environment of abundance and sharing. That mindset got us in trouble because we thought other people thought like that, and they don't. Remember, our sense of abundance must be restored, our understanding. Our understanding of community, of village, and our ability to manage a state. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM, the education advocacy station. Tune in here, you will learn something. All right. When people say America was founded on Christianity, we're part of Christianity. Indigenous genocide, African enslavement, we're part of Christianity. Mass rape of women and children and men. Denying women's rights to property, voting, marriage, divorce, finances. That's your fact of Christianity? It's something. In 1933, the Nazi Party passed a law against habitual and dangerous criminals, which allowed for the relocation of beggars, homeless, and the unemployed to concentration camps. Tell you a little something about that. During the Holocaust, when they first started murdering the Jews, the soldiers shot them. They would make them dig mass graves, get down in the graves, and then the soldiers would shoot them. But they couldn't keep doing it. It started messing with their mind. That's why they came up with the gas chamber. Okay? Now, what we have now, of course, are prisons. And I told you this a couple of weeks ago, and I've been mentioning this. The Supreme Court has ruled 6-3. That means the 6 conservatives on the Supreme Court, who outnumber the 3 progressives or liberals, they ruled 6-3 that it is legal to criminalize homelessness. Where's this meeting? They sided with an Oregon town that made it illegal to camp in public. Okay? Yeah. Made it legal. They backed Oregon's anti-camping laws to be used against homeless people. So they'll lock you up for being homeless. Meanwhile, private prisons are suing states for not having enough prisoners. So Oregon said, we got a contract with them and we're not fulfilling it by providing enough prisoners. First ones to do it when private prisons in Arizona, they sued the state for having a lack of prisoners. For the sake of saving over $16 million in back pay, the state settled by paying the private prison $3 million. Okay, Arizona essentially paid a company $3 million because not enough people are committing crime. All right. Now you remember, if you know anything about history, that after slavery, one of the first things that the southern states did was to outlaw vagrancy, not having a place to live or a job. If you didn't have a job, you got locked up, sent to prison, and farmed out to the very same damn plantation that you were freed from. Fast forward. Private prisons suing states because people aren't committing enough crimes. So one state instituted the anti-homeless law. Basically it's the vagrancy law. You get locked up, put in prison, and then farmed out to corporations to do jobs for damn near free that the corporations wouldn't hire you for when you were free. Now the United States has the largest known prison population in the world. The United States has 5% of the world's population, but 20% of the world's incarcerated persons. China, with 4 times more inhabitants, has fewer persons in prison. Welcome to the United Snakes of America, where they incarcerate more than 1.2 million people in state and federal prisons, and 2 out of 3 of these incarcerated people are also workers. Oh, and if you don't take one of these jobs, you're punished. In most instances, the jobs these nearly 800,000 incarcerated workers have look similar to those millions of people working on the outside. But there are 2 crucial differences. Incarcerated workers are under the complete control of their employers, and they have been stripped of even the most minimal protections against labor exploitation and abuse. It's called greedification. Yeah. Slavery by any other name. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. All right, Brother McKee. Thanks for tuning in. All right, let's keep it moving. Patrice Gibbs on WHGE 95.3 FM. Your open eye, third eye optometrist right here. Yeah, it's something that, especially here in America, especially if you're black, it can be dangerous to call the cops for help as a black person. Unfortunately, Sonia Macy found that out the hard way. An Illinois sheriff's deputy charged with murder in the death of a black woman shot her in the face during a tense moment over a pot of water in her home, and then discouraged his partner from trying to save her. Goddamn race soldiers. The details were in a court document filed in support of keeping fired Sangamon County Deputy Sean Grayson in custody without bond. County Circuit Judge Ryan M. Cadigan agreed, denying Grayson's pretrial release at a hearing Thursday in Springfield. In a courtroom guarded by a dozen sheriff's deputies, with 3 more patrolling the hall, Cadigan described the actions the former deputy is accused of as such a departure from expectations of civil society. Sonia Macy, 36, was killed at her home in Illinois capital city, about 200 miles south of Chicago, after deputies responded to her 911 call about a possible prowler. Prosecutors alleged that Grayson allowed Macy to move a pot of water heating on the stove and set it on the counter. Grayson then aggressively yelled at Macy over the pot and pulled his 9mm pistol. Macy then put her hands in the air and declared, "I'm sorry," and ducked for cover before being shot in the face. Grayson also discouraged the other deputy from getting his medical kit. Prosecutors said the other deputy still rendered aid and stayed with Miss Macy until medical help arrived. First Assistant State's Attorney Mary Rogers wrote, Grayson at no time attempted to render aid to Miss Macy. The 30-year-old Grayson, who is white, was indicted on charges of first-degree murder, aggravated battery with a firearm, and official misconduct. And this bastard pleaded not guilty in his first court appearance. More than 30 of Macy's family members and their supporters filled seats in the courtroom, several of whom declined to comment afterwards. No one argued with the state's contention that body camera footage of the incident upheld the first requirement in ordering Macy detained, that there is a strong presumption that the actions alleged in the indictment occurred. Authorities said they plan to release the body camera footage publicly. At no point did this defendant show anything but callousness to human life. Defense attorney False argued for Grayson's release, contending the state's arguments fell short on other arguments. False said Grayson is not a threat to the community because he was compliant and turned himself in within a half hour after his arrest warrant was issued. I don't give a damn. If he turned himself in thinking that they was going to protect him from the murder that he committed. Don't worry about it, bro. Just turn yourself in. We'll take it from there. We'll get you a warrant. His defense attorney said the Army veteran owns a home in Riverton, a community just east of Springfield, with his fiancée, whom he plans to marry this fall. His detention will pose a burden on the county because of stage 3 colon cancer diagnosed last fall that requires special medical treatment. It's a burden on the county. Okay. What about the burden on the hearts of Miss Macy's family? His lawyer asked for his release on conditions that weapons would be removed from his home and that he undergo a mental health evaluation and be put on round-the-clock electronic monitoring. He was threatened. Cadogan decreed that Macy, weighing about 110 pounds, posed no threat to the 6'3", 228-pound Grayson, who was armed and accompanied by another deputy. And after shooting her, refused to render aid. This is an evil, racist bastard. He was afraid of a pot of hot water. Pulled out his gun and murdered her. Sheriff Jack Campbell said Wednesday that Grayson was fired because it is evident that the deputy did not act as trained or in accordance with our standards. With our badge, we accept enormous responsibility. And that responsibility is abused, there should be consequences. Yeah, you damn right. You're right. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said, I'm enraged that another innocent black woman had her life taken from her at the hands of a police officer. Grayson is due back in court in August. He has been with the Sangamon County Sheriff's Department about 18 months. Falls said after serving as an officer with several other police agencies in central Illinois for about 7 years before that. You know what that means? That means that he's been doing stuff. He's been a cop for 7 years and then served as several police forces. That means that he's been removed from police forces because some of the dirt and abuse that he's committed. Now, instead of him being fired and never allowed to put on a badge or carry a gun again, he was hired by another police force where he finally murdered somebody. Cut the crap. Hope you're on a fast boat to hell. And you roasting hell with gasoline doors on. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Sometimes famous people are famous for practically nothing. Especially in the age of TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and what have you. But some people became famous even before all these social media outlets allow people to get famous. Now the crazy thing is how this is being used by those that are desperate to draw attention. For instance, the Republican National Convention gave a primetime speaking slot to a pro-abortion feminist and self-proclaimed slut with a tattoo whose only claim to fame is having sex with rappers. They should be embarrassed. Okay? Not a single voter will be mobilized by this person. A self-proclaimed slut. Famous for opening her legs. Yeah. And the reason the Republicans did this, because they thought that this person would attract black voters and people of color. Notice how I split that up. Always notice how I split that up. Black and people of color. Because people of color include fools like her and polka dot people eaters. July 15th, Amber Rose made a surprising appearance at the Republican National Convention to show her unabashed support for Donald Trump. I believe the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a racist, she said to the mostly white crowd. Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, straight, it's all love. And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong. Yeah, you stay your sorry ass over there then. Amber Rose. Famous for having the slut walk. You know, now what is the slut walk? Well, that's when the promiscuous woman is leaving someone she's had sex with home, unembarrassed about her promiscuity. The slut walk. And she said these are her people. Now, well, let me go on with this because, okay, you'll get it. All right, of course, she was dragged, and she should have been. And not only was she dragged on social media for her remarks, but MSNBC media person Joy Reid chimed in on the spectacle as well. She's racially ambiguous. I don't want to say she's black. She says she's not. So I don't want to say this woman is black, Reid said, referring to Rose calling herself as mixed race over the years. This woman, who is of whatever race that she is claiming, she says she's not black, but the Republican National Convention bought somebody whose whole career is based on black culture. Reid also cited how Amber Rose's past romantic relationship with Kanye West also helped her reach fame. That's where we know her from. And explained how the right is shamelessly trying to benefit from her pop culture currency, which she had very, very little of. She's now the person they're using to try to recruit young people of color, and to say that this is the person who is the endorser of Donald Trump, who you should trust, when she won't even claim the culture that brought her to the table. I'm dubious that this will work. Of course it's not going to work. Rose's move to conservatism is an appalling one, and it seems like it may be another ploy for attention. Excuse me. As Reed pointed out, black folks have never taken political cues from no Amber Rose, and we sure as hell ain't gonna start now. Believe that. Y'all can have that self-proclaimed slut. I didn't want to just come out and say, oh, y'all can have that slut. Self-proclaimed slut. This is how she identifies herself. And get the hell out of here. That crap. You kidding me? Get no respect. Now, while boasting about black employment, Trump is actually targeting good government jobs in his doomsday plan, which he denies to be a part of. I'm talking about Project 2025. While Trump boasts about his administration's success in creating black jobs, I don't know when the hell that happened. He and his inner circle are actually fine-tuning plans to eliminate them as part of his desire to dismantle the federal government. That means tens of thousands of so-called good government jobs with benefits would be shipped out of Chocolate City or gone nationwide with Republican appointees replacing black civil servants. It's not only alarming, but it also indicates Trump's deep disregard for the very communities that he lies and says he supports. Trump claimed that migrants were responsible for taking black jobs, trying to make sure that black people are xenophobic as well. They're taking black jobs now. They're taking black jobs and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history. Yeah, you got that right. Because it's this project. Look, you ever been to D.C.? Do you know how many federal workers are black? He's going to do the same thing Woodrow Wilson did. Woodrow Wilson fired all the black employees in the federal government, in the post office and civil servant jobs. Fired all of them. That's the same thing. Woodrow Wilson did it 100 years ago. Trump wants to do it tomorrow. Yeah. I'll tell you something. Of course, everyone's heard about the assassination attempt. Now, the reaction has been very interesting from the right. And what these right-wing racists and misogynists have been saying is that the reason that the assassination attempt took place and this shooter was able to get shots off and actually kill somebody, allegedly hit Trump, was because of diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's their stance. Yeah. Benny Johnson wrote on X, which is basically Twitter, that the situation was an absolute humiliation for this gaggle of female Secret Service agents, and that the DEI Secret Service makes presidents less safe. And that's been viewed and liked by 8 million people. Okay. And of course, with the assassination attempt has come conspiracy theories. I'm not big on conspiracies. But let's just look at this. You see somebody was shooting at you. You already allegedly been hit, but you were calm enough to say you wanted to get your shoes. Then with your life still in danger, you tell people trying to get you to safety to hold up, wait a minute, so that you can stick your head up and fist up in the open, back in the line of fire. I'm just wondering, why would someone do that? And of course, there are other strange things that went on during this assassination attempt. For instance, people pointed out before shots even took place that there's this cat over here on the roof. And the cops did nothing about it. And then there's the shot. I saw a weapons expert explain that an AK-47, the bullet from an AK-47 doesn't spiral like it would from a 22 because of the high velocity of a 22. It wobbles. And it really tears flesh up. If he had actually been hit in the ear, whatever ear it was, I'd have seen him with bandages on both ears. Did I tell you something? The thing is, if you get shot in the ear by a wobbling bullet that comes from an AK-47, it's going to rip your ear off. And you have a little blood trickling down his cheek. And you get shot from the front, not only is it going to rip off part of your ear, the blood is going to be running down the back of your neck. And you're going to bleed profusely from losing a chunk of your ear. And of course, there are other really strange things that took place. Interestingly enough, Thomas Matthew Crooks, who was the shooter who was killed, because there's all kinds of stories about him, he's actually has some connection to BlackRock, the security for hire contractors. One person said they wondered if he thought that he was part of security, that he actually never got a shot off and then was murdered. And of course, the Republicans and Trump try to get as much mileage out of the sympathy that comes along with something like this as they could. You just got shot, and you put your fist up and your head up to say, fight! Now everybody running around in the Republican convention with bandages on their ears. And the Republicans for a minute are talking about we need to bring the country together. Go to hell. Are you kidding? Amber Rose said she did her research and Trump's not a racist. I'll be damned, what research did you do? You could have did better if you'd read a comic book. I mean, this is the same cat that was sued for racial discrimination in his properties. He wouldn't rent to black people. The same cat that walked in his casino and declared he didn't want black people counting his money. There's some Jews over here. That's what he said. Mm-hmm. This is who this house he got up to support. Do I think the assassination attempt Was just a propaganda ploy? Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. Any intelligent person would look at this and say, something ain't right. Yeah. And I have a lot of understanding for those that say, damn, he missed. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. Dr. Clark teaches us that an educated man is not fit to be a slave. Once you comprehend the threat an educated black man poses to the global system of white supremacy, you can understand why the education system as an institution is designed to suppress and even annihilate the mental evaluation, the mental elevation of the African American child. Because it makes us dangerous. So they do everything they can. You are not taught to read and comprehend. You're taught to read and absorb so that you can pass the next test. So that you can express the propaganda. You're taught to read and absorb. You're not taught to read critically. I've been blessed, fortunate, that I was taught to read critically by my mother. Not just read and absorb and become an echo chamber for the propaganda of white supremacy. Read and think. Close it out here. We declare our right on this earth to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary. Never forget Malcolm's words. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. A glass that is full cannot hold more water. It must be emptied first. And remember, destiny determines who enters your life, but you decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you, and don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. This has been Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Thanks for joining us. Yes, indeed. Thanks for joining us. And I always tell you, I always in my show with global African supremacy, because we were experts at managing the state, and the world was a much better place when the black man ruled. I'm Patrice Gibbs.